traveling to consciousness, exploring spiritual journeys to find answers in uncertainty.
We are going to be discussing the One Big Beautiful Bill, and we will discuss whether or not it was beautiful. It was certainly big, and I think everyone can agree on that. We are going to also talk about the recent flooding crisis that hit Texas. Did not hit Kansas, it hit Texas. We're going to talk about some sanctions on Hezbollah and their financial institution, and we're going to talk about Medicaid cuts because those have been facing resistance. So today, let's start off by jumping into the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, because it was definitely big. Now, whether or not it was beautiful, we'll talk about that right now. So, essentially, what it has been propped up as, and what happened is it is being sold as a multi-trillion-dollar tax and spending package that was passed by Congress with a 218 to 214 vote in the House and was passed in the Senate 51-50 with Vice President J.D. Vance breaking the tie. The legislation extends Trump's 2017 tax cuts. It also introduces new tax breaks, allegedly, increases funding for border security and defense, and implements significant cuts to Social Security safety net programs like Medicaid and SNAP, which is supplemental nutrition assistance program. And consequently, and amazingly, it also raises the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. And if you did not know, the debt ceiling right now sits at about $36 trillion, which is absolutely astronomical. Actually, let me verify that. I believe it's 36.2 trillion. Is that correct? I want to make sure I'm getting you guys the most accurate information. What is the current debt of the United States? I believe it's 36. But you never know nowadays, because the way that they spend money, the way that they spend our money is absolutely ridiculous. And they basically just give it out to the highest bidder. Oh, that's some sort of weird thing. But we also are going to talk about Elon Musk getting into, so $1 trillion, we got $33 trillion, 32.6, maybe it's around that ballpark. Some numbers are going to be a little bit different based on how you make the calculations. But what you have to realize is that this $5 trillion debt increase has Elon Musk frustrated as well, because Elon Musk has been now mortified. He's curious about what the purpose of Doge was if we were going to make all these cuts and now raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion. And I don't even think Doge was able to cut $5 trillion. I think it was far less than that. I don't know if they even got to $1 trillion. But now it has Elon Musk all upset, and it has him starting his own political party called the American Party. Kind of funny how close it is to the American Congress Party, right? Elon, if you're listening, you can still join. We got a good platform. We got a great platform. You're welcome. We'll welcome you with open arms if you want to join. You just have to agree with the platform. That's really it. But speaking of the platform, I do find it interesting how the America Party doesn't seem to really have a platform. I mean, maybe his only platform is really just to stop spending, but we don't really know. Essentially, he's set it up to fight against the Republicans and the Democrats because they just are spending like crazy, which I do agree with, and it's very evident. But yeah, and to see how much money that they are spending and are wasting, we're going to run through some of the numbers. So they do have some economic growth incentives, and this would be in relation to the 2017 tax cuts, which are lowering our taxes, or at least keeping them where they're at. It's not technically lowering it. There are new tax breaks for tips, for overtime pay, for the auto loan interest, which are aimed to benefit the working class. And these were things that Trump did speak upon. There are deductions for business gains, for equipment, for research spending. We also have spending on border security, which is insane, which is up to $350 billion, which is crazy, including $45 billion for ICE detention facilities. We have $14 billion for deportation operations, $50 billion for border wall construction. I mean, all these numbers are just so insane. One interesting thing he did was he introduced Trump accounts, which it's always funny that he throws his name in front of all of these things, which provide a $1,000 federal deposit for children born between 2025 and 2028, which is weird that they would only do it for 3 years and not just have it an ongoing thing, with tax advantage saving options for education or home purchases, potentially encouraging family financial planning. Now, this doesn't really, in my opinion, create the knowledge that is needed for people, because people need to understand how finances work. They need to understand how money works. They need to understand how you use it. If you're going to save it, if you're going to invest it, how you balance a checkbook. All of this stuff is now, in my opinion, completely wasted. I would have much rather seen those $1,000 per person going into things like that. I mean, even if you look at the current way that Social Security set up, that's basically a Ponzi scheme. Me being 31, I'll probably never see any of the money that I put into Social Security. Meanwhile, if I would have just taken that money and invested it into the S&P 500, I would easily be a millionaire by the time I retired, if I ever retire. That's a whole nother side conversation. But the point that I'm bringing up here is that it's a complete scam whenever they try to use our money to save it for us to spend it later. All of it to me is just, it's completely ridiculous and gives me a headache to think about sometimes because of how insane, idiotic, and corrupt our entire institution is. And so let's keep going with the big, quote unquote, beautiful bill. It boosts the child tax credit from $2,000 to $2,200. So basically, if you have a kid, helps boost the money that they're going to give to you, which we are facing a population collapse in America, which means that the death rate is higher than the birth rate. So we definitely need more people having kids. I completely back that. I support that. I think if you're in a position financially to have more kids, if you're in a position romantically, I think we should be incentivizing that however we can. This could help, but let's be honest, $2,000, even $2,200 in this economy is not going to be able to support a child. So yeah, it's ideas are in the right place, their hearts are in the right place, but this is not going to make a dent for families who are trying to start their own families. It's not going to move the needle, let's say that. The debt ceiling, as we talked before, it has raised to $5 trillion by $5 trillion, which is absolutely insane. And honestly, the fact that they can just keep upping this, they can keep taking the debt ceiling and moving it higher, feels like it's like a pony show. It's like it doesn't even matter. There's no point for it if they can just keep upping the debt ceiling. I don't see the point of it. Like, why even have one in the first place if we can just keep voting to increase it? Because that's all they're going to do, because they don't actually run this like a business, because probably no one taught our House of Representatives or our Senate about what it takes to actually build a business. I bet very few of them even have businesses of their own, which is furthermore why we need more entrepreneurs, more business owners to get involved in politics, because this country needs to balance our budget sheet. Right now, our expenditure is astronomical, and the money that's coming in, it doesn't support it. And it's going to take new leadership. It's going to take the American Congress Party to fix it, because we are a party full of entrepreneurs, of business owners who understand the way that money essentially works. And we need to give that education to the next generation, because that's what our party is all about, is supporting and supplying a future for the generation after us. Because it's not about me, it's about my kids and their kids and the future. Otherwise, what's the point of all of this? Why do anything? Why try to make the world a better place? And honestly, if we're going to do a spiritual point with this, we weren't, but I'm taking it there. At some point, I feel that that's like the antithesis of what it means to be human and the purpose of life, which is to leave the world better than the way you found it. That's what, in some weird way, gives the world meaning, gives your life meaning. Even if you just extrapolate this out to just your own life, anytime you leave your room or a house or an interaction better than the way you found it, you find meaning in that. So why not do that at a global scale? Why not help people to the best of our ability? Why not leave the world better than how we found it? And what I see here is we're doing the exact opposite, because the Congressional Budget Office found and estimates that the bill will add 3.3 to 3.8 trillion dollars to the national debt over the next decade. And this is, yeah, so 36.2 trillion is our current. It's like, to me, it's just insanity. And countries and the Federal Reserve are no longer buying US notes because the interest that they want on it is up near 5%. So what that means is essentially our money. The reason we're in debt is that we're in debt to other countries. We're in debt to the central banks. And so what happens is essentially we have to pay them back. Our debt, we have to pay off, I think, $1 trillion just in interest this year. And to me, it's like, where are we going to get that money from? Well, first of all, we have to just stop wasting it. But these institutions, these bureaucrats, they just burn it. They literally are just burning money. If you look at the national defense, I mean, they will just shoot off ammunition. They'll fly planes in circles to just burn gas to pollute the air so that they can have more money, have at least the same amount of money, if not more money, whenever it times for their budget. And it's just crazy to me. It's like, if you don't need money for the fuel, if you're not using it, just don't get more money. You guys can still have the same, salary. Your salary, I'm sure, is guaranteed. But why do you need more money if you're just literally burning it? I mean, it's like our entire psychology is all messed up. Well, that's for an Indigo education podcast. That's for a spiritual podcast. What's going on there? But also there are disproportionate benefits that they have found in this bill that benefits the wealthy. Of course, no surprise there. There's a nonpartisan analysis of the Tax Policy Center and Yale Budget Lab, which indicate that the wealthiest households will see the largest tax benefits, about $12,000 annually for high earners, while low-income Americans may lose $1,600 yearly due to safety net costs outweighing the tax relief. Some of the safety net costs would be cuts to Medicaid and SNAP, potentially leaving 11.8 million people uninsured by 2034 and 3 million without food stamps. Now, food stamps are crazy because you can just buy junk food with it. So I think that entire program needs a complete revamping. I don't hate it, but it just completely needs to be revamped, because the fact that we are paying people and subsidizing things like Pepsi, like Coca-Cola, we're subsidizing chips and junk food and cookies. I think that's just disgusting and evil at its most basic core, because the fact that you're allowing people to eat junk food whenever they need to get their mind, health, and their body right, it's criminal to me. And they clearly don't know better. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in these financial situations. So to encourage people to continuously poison their body to make themselves less healthy, and now we're taking away Medicaid to make themselves get even worse medical assistance, I just see that as evil. I see that as being pure evil. Like it's okay. I think at some level it's okay if we're subsidizing, medication and our food supply, but it needs to be healthy and it needs to be fixing the root cause, because we're just treating symptoms. You're giving them food, you're letting them poison their body with these foods that they don't know any better, and it's cheap. So they're just going to take it because they're in a state of fear, a state of fight or flight. So they'll just take the easy dopamine hit with eating chips, with drinking soda, because it's easy and it tastes good and it's a quick fix, and it dulls them out from their everyday life that is obviously and probably not very good, which by no means of their fault, because they've been poorly educated by our system. They don't understand proper nutrition. They don't understand their bodies, their minds, their souls. And so now they have been placed in this situation where they are just poisoning themselves, and then they're going to become sick and not know why, because they've been eating everything the government's been giving them, which obviously that's not good. And then Medicaid is going to come in and try to pay for some of the stuff, but they won't be able to pay all of it, thus costing the lower tax earners even more money and going to leave them broke and unhealthy and dejected. And then they're going to take pills that's going to disassociate them with their body. I mean, how is this not evil? Like, you just take a step back and just think logically for yourself. How is this not evil? I mean, and you can get lost in the minutia of, well, this politician, this person, that person. But if you take a step back and look at the entire landscape of what is going on, the decisions that are being made, the bills that are being passed, how can you not just feel that there's an entity, a possession, a mind virus? You know, they talked about that with the whole being woke mind virus, but it seems that there's a mind virus that is pervading all of our politicians that have convinced them to not do their own research, to go into all these things blindly. Maybe they're not even looking at the bigger picture. You know, it feels to me, I've been getting into chess lately. I think chess is an amazing game that is probably severely underrated in my generation, but I highly recommend everyone gets into it, because what it seems to me is that every single person, maybe in Congress, or at least as a whole, is only focused on the individual piece that they're playing. They're not looking at the entire board as a whole, right? Like maybe they got elected based on cutting SNAP or cutting Medicaid, or, you know, let me see here. What are the other things that we talked about? Maybe they got in this to increase defense spending or increase our border security. And they're like, yes, this is the one thing that I have pinned my entire campaign on. And they sit there and they say, okay, well, this is getting passed in the bill, so I win. It's like taking your pawn and moving it to a specific location. Or if my queen can take his knight, then I win. And to me, it's like, can we just take a second, zoom out, and look at the entire board? Because the way that we are playing this game is to lose. And the loss is humanity. The loss is separating our soul from our divine nature, of separating our heart and our mind and our body into this place of chaos and evil. It's just evil. It doesn't take account for the individual. It doesn't take account for how we can empower those who have been less fortunate, less educated, less insert word here. It just seems that they want these quick wins to get reelected. But the consequence of those actions is going to leave America worse than what they found it. And we have been seeing this go on for probably at least the last century. We've only been conscious of it for maybe 20, 30 years. Some people still haven't even woke up to it, but we'll wake them up over time. And I think, and here's, you know, well, we'll get to my synopsis of the big beautiful bill, but I think that has a role in that. And we'll get to how that's going to play a role in waking people up. This will play a role in waking people up when we get to my overall grading of it. And then for Medicaid, they're eliminating Medicaid funding for Planned Parenthood and gender-affirming care, potentially restricting access to healthcare services. Here's the thing. I'm very split on this. Now, I don't know all the intricacies regarding Medicaid, but Planned Parenthood and how it funds Planned Parenthood and gender affirming care. So I can't really get into the specifics of that. But what I can get into the specifics of, because we've never really talked about Planned Parenthood, my opinion on it, or gender affirming care, or really abortion. I don't even know if we've talked about abortion too much, and I don't know if this is the podcast to do it. Honestly, it feels like that deserves its own podcast. But I will say at a high level, it does feel like there is good things that Planned Parenthood does, and we shouldn't completely just, no pun intended, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Can't believe I used that analogy there. But there are good things that they do, and we'll discuss that, I think, in a future podcast whenever I get deeper into my opinions around abortion. And then when we're talking about gender affirming care, I think that that's just, it's a very nuanced conversation, but I think it boils down to this, that, it's very ironic to me that you need, if gender is like this social construct, then, and you can pick your gender at any time, then why would you need care to affirm what your gender is? Because if it's just fluid and you can decide it at any time, then how is that going to work, in the short answer? Again, I think that deserves its own podcast entirely, because both of those topics are very, I don't want to say nuanced. I mean, they kind of are. They kind of are nuanced, and you really have to dive into it to have a good understanding of it, because if you only take them at face value, you jump into these two camps of being pro or anti, and it gets messy very quickly. So we'll save those for a future podcast. So basically all of this, the reductions in Medicare are going to create a massive strain on the healthcare system. And then on top of all of this, we have some environmental impacts, which are great. It phases out clean energy tax credits from Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, which halts $522 billion in green investments and promotes fossil fuel extraction by cutting royalty rates for oil, gas, and coal companies. Critics argue this undermines climate change mitigation efforts. All right, here's the big enchilada around climate change. Is the climate changing? Yes. Why? No one seems to want to ask the question why. Everyone will point to CO2 and carbon, and that's not the answer, because we need carbon. You're a carbon being. You are made up of carbon. The atmosphere is made up of carbon. It's very important for carbon to be released because plants will breathe in carbon. So if we were to get rid of all the carbon in the atmosphere, all the plants would die and we would have a natural disaster, the likes of which we've never seen. It would destroy all life on this planet if we removed all carbon. So first of all, CO2 and carbon are not the boogeyman that the media has portrayed them to be. The reason we have climate change is because of the massive amount of pollution that we have been doing to our air, to our water, to our seas. And you can also look up things like HARP and DARPA. I'm not going to get into it on this platform because we've started uploading YouTube videos, and if you go too deep into those, you'll get flagged. There are other things where they are spraying chemicals into the air. You can even find that they're created a massive, what's it called? A massive warehouse to pull the CO2 out of the atmosphere. It's just, guys, it's just evil. It's so evil. You have Bill Gates talking about how he wants to block out the sun. To my editor, please, you're going to need to mute probably. You're going to have to bleep out like half of this stuff. And I think you know which part it is, but just shoot me a message if you don't. But the point is that it's just insanity. Is climate change happening? Yes. Is it because of CO2? No. Do we need to protect the oil and gas and coal and keep that in the ground? Yes. Why? Nobody realizes this, but the Earth and its electromagnetic frequency is exactly like a human being. It has a heartbeat that has been measured from outer space. You can find videos of it where you can see the pulsation of the Earth, and it has a rhythmic heartbeat. Oil, gas, coal, minerals that are in the earth, uranium, all of this is essentially the bones and blood of Earth. If we remove all of your bones from your body, are you going to be able to operate as a human? If we remove all the blood from your body, are you going to be able to operate as a human? No. So why do we think that we can just extract the bones and blood from Earth and think that it's going to somehow be okay with it and still survive? Yes, there are clean energy options, none of which nobody's talking about. We can capture energy from waves. We can capture it from footsteps, and there are a lot of things to do this. I think I have an earlier podcast where I go more in depth on this, and I know I have a YouTube video as well where I go much in depth on this, and this might not be the place. I know we're starting to run close on time, are we? Oh my gosh, we're moving through this. But this is what happens. This is what happens when we have giant bills that are giant. They were just absolutely enormous. They're called omnibus bills, where it means you just put everything in the bill and want it to get passed. And it's crazy because actually these bills, they get used in political contents. I watched this on Thomas Massey, a representative out of Kentucky. He was on Theo Vaughn's podcast, and he talks about how these omnibus bills will actually be used against people when they're running for Congress. So, for instance, right, we talked about good things like tax cuts, right? If you vote against this omnibus bill, then whenever you go and run for re-election, your opponent can then say, hey, he voted against tax cuts. When the reality is he could have been voting against this bill for the increase in the debt ceiling. So one of the main things we need to do in this country is stop allowing omnibus spending bills, omnibus bills in general. They should be single issue voting. There should be like one page. You get like one piece of paper to create your bill on. That might be a little bit hyperbolic. We could probably expand it out a little bit. But the point is it should be one issue. We can't be having these things that talks about increasing the debt, the child family support, border securities, defense spending, economic growth, tax cuts. Did I miss anything? Healthcare system, SNAP, Medicaid, environmental impact, social safety nets. Like, to me, it's absolutely insane that we're doing this. And I think it's insane to the average American as well, which, again, join the American Congress Party, because neither the Democrats nor the Republicans are talking about this. There are a few people on either side who are, but as a large, they're not talking about it. So we need people to come together. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion on this omnibus spending bill as a whole, right? There's kind of two ways to go with it. There's a pro and a con. The pro, no, I'm going to start with the con. The con is that this is very bad for America in the short term. This is very bad for America due to the increase in our budget, in our deficit, the increase in our spending, the lack of us being able to get more money from anywhere. And yeah, we're gonna definitely suffer for it. Maybe not me personally, but there will be lower income individuals, people who don't know better, who are going to suffer because of this bill being passed 100%. And you want to know the sad thing? The sad thing is what leads us into the pro of this bill, which is that it is going to accelerate and move us closer and wake people up. This is what I was referring to earlier. It will wake people up to realize that the system is broken, because America will have a financial collapse. And this bill is going to help accelerate that. We are going to have runaway inflation, the likes of which have only been seen by Venezuela. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd what's going on. Anybody with two eyes can see it. If you know anything about numbers, if you know anything about money, inflation, percentages, interest rates, and why is that a good thing? Well, it's going to purge, it's going to wake people up, because nobody really wants to make a change right now, because things aren't bad enough. Things, in order for people to change their life and to change their opinions and change their beliefs, things have to get bad enough. And that is a sad truth. If you're a student of history, you know this, because you've seen it throughout every government, every empire that has ever fallen, has because things got so bad that you needed something new to come in and replace it. And that, my friends, is where the American Congress Party comes in. That is where we fulfill that gap. People will start looking for an alternative view. They'll start to look at, how could we have been so blind? The Democrats don't care about us. The Republicans don't care about us. They only care about lining their pockets. They only care about their special interests. They only care about their lobbyists. They don't care about the American people. They only care about getting reelected. And in that moment, you and your friends will hear it in the back of your head. It might just be a little whisper, but you will hear and you will know that it is time for the American Congress Party. You will know that the American Congress Party is what is going to fulfill It will be the mortar that repairs the foundation of this country that has been brutally attacked and pillaged by the two-party system. Because all these two parties care about, the only thing they can agree on, is increasing the debt limit and giving money to foreign countries to kill innocent people. Those are the only two things that matter in this country. That's the only thing they care to do with your tax-paying dollars. That's the only thing they care to do. That's it. So that's why it's always what gets done. That's why it's the only thing that's important to them. Prove me wrong. That's where all the evidence shows. Oh, well, so-and-so said that they actually got in because they wanted to do blah, 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 blah. Don't look at what people say. You look at what they do. Actions speak stronger than words. And all the actions have shown that they don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about anyone except for themselves, their lobbyists, and maybe foreign countries. Specifically one that I think we all know. But I can't say it because YouTube will get angry. And I don't want to give my editor more work. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, honestly, you maybe won't even blurb out YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can find the edit free, the censor free down below. I'll show you a link. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that we're heading in the wrong direction as a country. But I don't know. I mean, ironically, going that direction will cause a lot of pain, a lot of misery for a lot of people. But on the other end, we will break free into the American Congress Party, which is amazing. And I can't wait for that. I'm excited. It's just going to suck that we're going to have to go through a tunnel of darkness in order to get to the light. This podcast is running extremely long. I got really into that bill because I had a lot to say on it. Some side notes in case you weren't aware. In Kerr County, there's at least 69 people who were killed. 21 children and 27 girls are still missing from a summer camp in central Texas because there was some severe flooding. FEMA and Governor Greg Abbott have ongoing rescue efforts. I did want to talk about that. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the big news for today. I don't really want. I mean, the other stuff's kind of there, but I don't know. It's just not worth it in my opinion. Wow, this kind of went long, but I hope you enjoyed my breakdown of the omnibus spending bill, what it means for our future, and hopefully how we can all, in some way, shape, or form, come together, join the American Congress Party, save America, and then save the world. With all that being said, I appreciate you all for being here. Stay safe, stay happy, join the American Congress Party, and if you don't, I will see you in the 6th dimension.